Hello, and welcome to another episode of this I'm Possible Life podcast. I'm your host, Lisbeth Koning, and today I want to talk about the power of naming it. So, as you know, this has been in the perimenopause menopause series, and one of the big things that maybe we should name with the people in our lives is I recognize that I am going through perimenopause or I'm going through menopause, whatever stage you're at. Or I may be going through this. I'm not sure yet, but there's a lot going on for me. Just naming it, right? If we can share that, then it's kind of takes away from the pressure to go on as is, as if you're not dealing with all of these other things in your life, right? Suddenly it's a little harder to handle everything that you could handle before because there's some stuff going on. So let's name it. But there's a lot of other ways that we can use the mindset, mindful strategy of naming it. So let's say with our kids. With our kids, maybe you lose it in a moment or you yell, right? And you get really frustrated and that does affect them. Okay. So some kids you see exactly that it affects them or how it affects them. Other kids, you don't, but it is. Okay. So that is where if you have never listened to Dr. Becky, I invite you to find podcasts where Dr. Becky is being interviewed because she has amazing things to say, especially about the power of repair. So, all of us are going to mess up. We're going to lose our cool. We're going to yell, right? It happens. But what we do afterwards is what leads to whatever effect it's going to have. So, if we can repair, then we are making that relationship stronger. We're connecting with our kid and we're showing them that it's okay to mess up. It's okay to not do something the way you had originally planned it, or, right? All of these nuances, but it's okay. And we can apologize and we can say, I'm going to try to do better. And we can still talk about the thing that's frustrating us, right? It's not like you're just saying, well, like you can just do whatever you were doing that was frustrating me. No, but I can deal with it in a better way. I can try to stay regulated. So naming it. Um, you want part of that is owning it and then and modeling that and then asking for what you need. So in all of these situations that I'm going to talk about, which I find myself in as well, uh, we we have to ask for our needs. So if you're feeling resentment, you're probably not doing that, right? That's like one of the cues to myself. I'm like, oh, I'm feeling resentment here. What am I not speaking? Right. So it's really unfair for us to get really upset at someone for not living up to our expectations if we haven't clearly outlined them, had a conversation. And with kids, we might clearly outline it and we might need to do that again. That is the nature of children. Okay, let's say with a partner. So with a partner, I find it especially is like if you notice that like, ooh, suddenly we're here, right? I used to not be able to come back from that, at least not in that moment. Like it was like I needed to leave the house. We go to bed angry, like whatever it is, right? But now, sorry, that was my cat. I'll check that out later. Now I can recognize in the moment, like, oh, that escalated and get curious, right? I can separate myself from that escalation because what part of what happens is if we're not able to have that separation and we let ego drive. That's where I used to be, right? I was letting ego drive. And so I needed to leave the situation. I needed them to like see my point, right? Like that's ego. If you can step out of ego and put a little distance between you and you can think, what is happening here, right? What do we both need? Because every human has this core need to feel seen and heard. You do, I do, your partner does, your kids do. And we're not always so good at communicating that. So with your partner, if you can recognize in that moment and just name it, like, ooh, I think that my parts are getting triggered by your parts, which are triggering my part. Like we are triggering each other right now. But let's go back to the main thing, which is we're on the same team. We love each other. We're on the same team. We can figure this out. Right. And just naming, like, we just triggered each other. Right. And that escalated. But that's not where solving is going to happen. That's not where coming together is going to happen. That's not where empathy is going to happen. So bringing it back. You can also say, hey, I recognize that I'm probably not being my best self right now. I didn't sleep well last night because perimenopause. I'm dealing with a hot flash right now because of perimenopause. Like, I mean, you think about all the things that we're balancing, like all of the symptoms that come from perimenopause are going to make it so we're probably a little more irritable. We're not able to handle things as well, but we can name it, right? I'm not excusing my behavior, right? Me nipping at you or jumping at you, like that's not excusable, but I'm going to name it. Wow, I'm going through a lot right now, and I am probably not being my best self. That just like, where's the temperature, right? Because you're owning it. Okay. So name it, own it, say what you're feeling. I am noticing that I am feeling resentful and I don't want to feel that way. And I'm not saying that it's anything like this is not fault conversation. I'm not blaming, but it's when I notice that, that's when I know I need to speak up. So here's some of the things I need. There it is again. You have to ask. And you have to build up to that. I was terrible at that before. Hence those relationships are no longer. But we learn and we grow, right? And you can learn and grow in the relationship that you're in, especially if you are both dedicated to grow and allowing each other to make mistakes and allowing repair to happen. What about with colleagues or bosses? Hmm. I find that in those situations, sometimes it's important to just name societal pressures, right? Name dynamics, power dynamics. Like in this conversation, like this person has all the power and this person doesn't, and it's going to change the dynamic of it. Or men and women, right? Women are expected to behave a certain way in society. And if you don't, then there's certain like thoughts about you and ways of interacting with you. It changes the dynamic. And if you do, maybe you aren't getting what you deserve, right? So there's dynamics there. So naming them, there's privileges, right? Naming privilege, very important. So when we're working with other adults and colleagues and bosses, like taking a moment to name the situation, like, hey, these might be things that are affecting how we're thinking about things, how we're reacting to each other, how we're communicating with each other. So let's just name them so they're in the room with us. Um, and just coming back to the fact that everybody just wants to feel seen and heard, right? And understood. And if ego is driving the bus, especially if ego is driving the bus on both sides, you're not going to get there. So, how do you make sure your ego isn't driving the bus? That takes checking in with you. You have to make space for that in your life. If you are feeling overwhelmed and resentful and like you can't handle everything, look at your calendar. Is there any time charted off for you? Probably not. Probably not if you're in that state. So, what can you do? Right? You have to carve out that time. You have to talk with your kids, with your partner, with your boss, and you have to say, okay, you know, I need to, for me, it's if I'm not on lunch duty, I am stepping away and doing a short meditation. I am making sure I'm getting my therapy every week. I am making sure that on the nights that I don't have my kids, I am doing things that fill me, right? Because I'm divorced, that's why. You're like, well, you don't have your kids, but they might have activities like if you're not divorced, like the kids have things that they're gonna do, and I mean, honestly, it's probably harder if you're not, right? And so you have to communicate with everyone and carve out a little time for you to check in with you. Maybe you journal, maybe you walk and talk. Whatever the method is, you have to find that time to check in with yourself. And if you're finding yourself getting sick a lot and hurt a lot, one question to ask yourself is, what am I not listening to? Because the body speaks. So if you're ignoring a health issue, if you're ignoring an internal emotional issue, right? That is going to come out as an injury or an illness. There's a really awesome book that I refer to. I have a copy of that digitally on my phone. And so whenever I'm having like a certain ailment, I'll look it up. What's the emotional connection to this? It's it's great. It's crazy. Like, okay, so I've told this story before, but it was a podcast a while ago. So if you haven't gone back and listened, you might never heard it. But I have having like a rib going out of place and it was like affecting my shoulder blade area. And I looked up in this book and it said that you are trying to control someone else's life. And I was like, oh dang, I was just called out. I was just called out, right? And it was in a loving way. We do it in a loving way. I know you probably do it too. We do it in a loving way, but it's not our journey. It is their journey. And so every time that would happen, I would like check myself, right? If I got that pain, I'd be like, this is their journey, not my journey. This is their journey. And I'm happy to say that I don't even remember the last time that I had that injury. And at that time, it was with the person who I was in a relationship with that I was like, that I was doing that with. And I was getting that injury a lot. So there's something to say about the connection to our bodies and emotional stuff. So be honest with yourself. Like, where can you carve out time? Is it first thing in the morning? Is it at lunchtime? Is it before you go to bed? It's okay to set timers. Like, I make sure that I play with my daughter every day, but sometimes, depending on how much time we have, it's like a 2 minute timer, 5 minute timer, 10 minutes if we have more space, right? And just that, like, she even told me once, like, even when it's only 5 minutes, I just feel so much better because it's that one on one, totally connected time, right? So we don't have to like spend hours and hours and hours with our kids and dedicate everything and driving them to all their things and doing all the things in order to be a good parent. In order to be a good parent, you need to model taking care of you as well. We have to find that balance. All right. I'm just naming it. Just naming it. That is the power for this week. I want you to go into your week and I want you to think about in each situation you're in, what do I need to name right now? All right. Have a beautiful week.